podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon. Why, hello, and welcome to Season 27, Episode 16 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Stork.
And my name is Kurt.
In this episode of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast, John writes in saying, "Help! I gave the party a dragon egg. Now what?" Ken R. writes in about differing gaming groups. That was we were supposed to read last week. And because, it wasn't. Jonas sends us an email about being a murder hobo in a modern setting. But first, if you'd like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. We're on social meteors. HappyJacksRPG, all one word, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and MeWe. And we stream live at Saturday at 11 p.m. Pacific time at happyjacks.org/live. We're starting a week earlier than we were supposed to because I had to work late yesterday. But we're going to be on Saturdays for a while. Not forever, but probably for a month or two, or maybe through the end of the year. Who knows? There's one of... This is out. This is my third book,
Woo!
Mandite and the Collegium Magicum. And,
you are on fire.
And you can get this
with the authoring there.
Yes,
Man, you're like Isaac Asimov. You're putting out a book a week.
I wish I could put out a book a week. It's available on Amazon is as a Kindle and as a print-on-demand book. This is actually a print-on-demand book, and I've just finished the outline. I threw out the outline for the fourth book and I redid it because I'm like, wait a second, nothing interesting happens in this outline. That doesn't sound like a formula for a very good novel.
I don't know. Robert Jordan got away with that for many, many books.
Ooh, ouch.
Some people say that...
You're not arguing.
I haven't read any of Robert Jordan's books, so I can't actually say anything to that
I think
matter.
he got paid by the word.
Was he a lawyer?
No, he's just very wordy.
Have any of you read the Skippyverse books?
No. The Skippyverse?
That's what I call them. What's it called? Expeditionary Force is the name of the series.
No.
I really enjoy reading them, but it's kind of like a science fiction fan's version of like romance novels.
Okay, all right.
But they're not romance novels.
No, I get what your point. A friend of mine actually had a Harlequin contract.
Oh,
and
really?
She was required to write. It was either 13 books in 24 months or 24 books in 13 months.
That sounds like work. That sounds hard.
No,
Wow.
I mean, they were formulaic by design, but that was if she finished that contract, then they would publish basically anything else she wrote. So yeah, it was.
I enjoy fluffy fantasy stuff now and again. I mean, I like Mercedes Lackey. I can only read a book every now and again because after a while it's just so many fairies and unicorns, but they're fun.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah, I think that the Expeditionary Force, there's about 12 books in that series, I believe. And he's cranking out 2 or 3 a year right now.
Find out who the most prolific science fiction or fantasy author is, just number-wise.
I was about to say, I think I know.
Of course you do.
Well...
Because I know who you're married to.
Right, exactly.
Who works with books and literature all the time.
Well, yeah, and she's particularly a fan of an online series, an online novel, or series of novels, or whatever you want to call them, called The Wandering Inn, which updates twice a week, and each chapter is about 30,000 words.
Holy shit! God damn!
Somebody just writes constantly all day long?
Yeah, she's
or is it
she's
done
writing,
by AI?
She's writing. She's somewhere over 7 million words at this point in the series. And one of the things that Mary loves about it is, one, it's there are various different point of view protagonists. I think there's like 20 different point of view protagonists in it, and more than half of them are female or non-binary. There is an amazing attention to detail with regards to continuity. That it doesn't contradict itself, or if it ever does, it's because one of the characters misunderstood what was going on. So you got a little bit of an unreliable narrator kind of thing going on.
I'm still wigging over 30,000 every 2 weeks. You say?
No. Well, okay. So each chapter is about 30,000 words. They have been. That's down. She used to do 50,000 words.
And the chapters
That's
come out
like that's like half of one of my books.
Right. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what constitutes an update versus a chapter. She posts updates twice a week.
Okay, I see. I was sitting here thinking, like, I'm not even sure I could keep up on the reading.
No,
I don't know if I could
like
have time to read 30,000 words every 2 weeks.
She quite literally writes faster than I read.
Yeah.
But I read slowly.
According to Gizmodo, Lionel Fanthorpe is the most prolific science fiction or fantasy author.
Lionel Fanthorpe? That is so going to be an NPC in the game someday.
Right. he had 20 different pseudonyms.
Oh, all right.
And he wrote 180 books, 89 of which were written during a 3-year period. Holy shit.
That guy was cranking them out. And they said at number 2 they put Mercedes Lackey.
She has a lot of books. I would think that
142 according to this
Ellie
article.
said as well. He has a bunch of books. He's probably in the
Next
top 10.
next is Piers Anthony, of course.
Oh yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, all the Xanth novels themselves are like 40 of them
yeah.
or something. Yeah.
Walter Gibson, who I've not heard of, 1930s and 40s. Oh, he wrote The Shadow.
He's no William Gibson.
Harry Turtledove. That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, no.
Andre Norton, Asimov.
Norton was...
Brian Aldiss.
I don't know.
65
I know Norton.
novels.
She cut my teeth on Andrea Norton. She was
Wolfgang
like, all her books were in
Holbein.
the grade school library.
Wolfgang Holbein. German. I don't know. Come on. And then they have Ray Bradbury. R.A. Salvatore.
Yeah, but
Is it Salvatore or Salvatore?
Salvatore.
He doesn't pronounce the E?
I've heard him introduce himself in an interview, so it's Salvatore.
That would be about as what's the word I'm looking for? Not authoritative. That'd be about as authoritative.
Yeah. If he introduces himself by his own name in an interview that I heard, that has video and audio.
Right. Okay.
wrong.
I'll go ahead and read the first name. Anyway, but if you like science fiction and you don't mind it being light reading, I'll say they're fun books. The Expeditionary Force series, and there's about 12 of them, and he's published 2 or 3 this year. Could probably because of the lockdown. He's like, well, I can't go anywhere. Okay. I gave the party a dragon egg. Now what? From John. Greetings all. Sounds like giving the party a fucking rhinoceros.
But it's an egg. You actually got to haul the thing around and not break it.
You haven't made the fatal mistake yet. John here, also known as some dude from Idaho. In my previous email, is that your own private Idaho? In my previous email, I was not trying to remain anonymous, just forgot to sign it. I don't remember when this is. Kind of hope the asshats that I wrote about listen to your show. I doubt it, though, or they wouldn't have tried to pull the shit that they did. He'd actually asterisk out shit, but I'm going to assume that's the word he meant. It wasn't.
I actually think I remember this email. It happened a while ago, but I think I remember it. He was trying to game at a gaming store, and they had a young woman with them, and there was a bunch of asshats.
Yeah. A brief recap. It was a revenge TPK at the time. At a game store involving 2 of the regular players, myself and a D&D newbie who happened to be a girl. One of the suggestions is that you pull her aside and run a short game for her so she would know that not all nerds are misogynist douchebags. I had not thought about it at the time and figured it would be kind of creepy to drive around the town and ask random girls if they wanted to role play in my dungeon. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Fair.
It's very, very creepy, yeah.
I've been watching.
Don't anybody do that.
Yeah,
Good on you for recognizing that
Yes.
fact.
I've been watching Criminal Minds.
Oh yeah.
Because the first fuck you Netflix 13 episodes or 13 seasons are on Netflix, and then it's like, what do you mean this is it?
We'll talk later.
No, I found them on Amazon, so
Okay,
I started. I figured, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to watch the first episode of the next season so I can see how the cliffhanger ends, and I'll just wait until the rest of it's out. But God, that show is so fucking formulaic.
Yeah.
I guess after 15 years, you're gonna be.
Yeah.
Wheels up in 20, wheels up in 30, wheels up in 10.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we're looking at a team. Let's see, where was it? In good news, since then I've found a group in my local area. I am GMing a game of 5e D&D every Tuesday. It consists of 6 players of varying experience. Now the
Sounds
issue.
vaguely familiar.
Right. Early on, to promote role-playing and player interaction, I had initiated a crit fail, crit succeed roll. If they rolled a 1 or a 20, they got to dictate what happened. It actually made my job easier and really drew the players in. Apparently, when they have a stake in it, even the withdrawn players get a bit more into the game. Yes. I thought...
Good tip for everybody, I think.
Absolutely. I thought, man, this is awesome. What could possibly go wrong? I have a somewhat permissive gaming style. Pretty much let the players try whatever they want, then let the dice decide if it works or not. This was all great until they went into some caves in which kobolds were guarding a dragon egg. Well, my stupid druid player decided she wanted the egg and rolls a natural 20 on her animal handling skill. Well, son of a bitch. So they have been packing around the stupid dragon egg for several sessions now, and I have been trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do with it. Now, you would think I had learned my lesson, but no. Last session, they finally get to the tavern, and I had given them, which, by the way, they immediately decided to turn into a brothel, wrote a theme song for their brothel, and started hiring whores. In one of the outbuildings, I rolled a random encounter, which was a giant spider. The same stupid druid cast animal friendship on it, speak to animals, and rolled a 20 on her persuasion skill. Now, as long as they feed it, they have a pet giant spider. We're all having fun, and I don't really want to change the way I GM or take away any of their agency. My question is, what the hell do I do with the stupid dragon egg?
I like the fact that the spider can work as a bouncer.
Yes.
Anybody who doesn't pay well, like suddenly the spider drops out of the ceiling and scares the bejesus out of them and start paying. Yeah.
Is it if the giant spider is smart enough to be able to be trained that way, that would be a fantastic bouncer, best bouncer ever.
Oh yeah,
Guard dog or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's along the same lines of no, you don't have to mess. You're not going to get in trouble with me. You're going to get in trouble with him. And look up and
Right.
right?
Come descending
Also
down.
a good place to store all your stuff. You just put it in the outhouse with the giant spider. No one's going to go in there and get your shit.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's where you put your treasure chest and shit.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, with regards to the aforementioned stupid dragon egg, I see 2 options, and there are probably more. One is that it requires redonkulous environmental conditions in order to hatch. Right? It is essentially a rock until it goes through the necessary environmental conditions, like being in a dragon nest, to actually be able to hatch it. And so maybe they can never get that. Maybe they can never achieve that, or they have to go on a really serious quest in order to get the necessary conditions in order to hatch it.
I would even go one step further, because this is something
sure.
I was thinking. Just to piggyback off what you're saying before you continue with your other 3, it might be interesting to figure out what type of dragon it is first, because perhaps each dragon has a different birthing and style.
Yes, I was thinking
Okay.
the same thing. I was thinking the exact same thing because the if you're going the Daenerys Targaryen route where it's like, well, I'm just gonna build a giant fire and throw the egg in, and well, yes, but it's a white dragon egg, and you've just cooked it, and now you have a
hard-boiled
soft
egg.
boiled. Now you have a hard boiled dragon egg.
So certainly they need
Dragon
to
egg
take this tip with
salad.
somebody who specializes in dragons, who would be hard to find,
Right?
and have
Yeah.
them identify the egg. And
Exactly.
it could be a gold dragon, and maybe it's as simple as the Daenerys thing, which is whatever breath weapon they use is what you use on that egg to make it hatch.
Right. In which case, what do you do if it's a blue dragon?
Right.
What do blue
I mean,
dragons
like-
breathe? I don't even remember.
Lightning.
Lightning.
Gonna put it in a lightning pond.
You gotta take it out to sea in a hurricane during a thunderstorm.
You
or
wait
something.
for your wizard to get to level 5 and hit it with lightning bolt.
1.6 gigawatts.
Exactly.
It's alive.
Yes,
I kind of like
exactly.
I kind of like the idea of letting the egg hatch kind of on its own. But when the dragon comes out, it's fully sentient. It's not going to bond to you or any shit like that. It's just a fully aware and pissed off dragon right away. It's just little.
So, yeah, that is a variant on where I was going with my second
Okay.
idea. My second idea comes from the Naomi Novik series, His Majesty's Dragon, the Temeraire series. For those of you who have read it, for those of you who haven't, it's essentially the Napoleonic Wars with dragons. Think Master and Commander fanfic, because that's basically what it is. But the main dragon character in that, Temeraire, they find this dragon egg, and what they don't know, because they're not dragon specialists, they're Navy people, Navy men, is that the dragon actually bonds before it hatches. It is sentient and sapient in the egg.
So unlike Anne McCaffrey, where once they're born, they have a window to bond, but
Right.
they're actually starting that in utero.
It's
Yeah,
whoever,
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
whoever's sitting on it.
Well, I mean, big egg, but yeah. So in this case, what it is in this case, the dragon, upon hatching aboard ship, bonds with the ship's captain, and now he can't be a Navy captain anymore. He has to be a dragon captain, and he has no idea how to do that. And the Navy is his life, as it would have been in 18th century English Navy. So it's the new, and the dragon's only going to bond if the dragon bonds to anyone. Like Stu said, maybe it doesn't. It's probably only going to bond to one person in the party.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that is a Temeraire style life bond that they have, or whether that's like the character that Sam played in the Rifts game, the Savage Rifts game,
Right.
where it was the relationship between Sam's character and Bill's character.
Right. Whoever's the first thing she sees after hatching. Right.
Right, exactly, and oh yes, no, I'm absolutely her mother. Yes. I don't, and the other thing is, dragons eat a lot. Like, take an elephant and then multiply it by a factor of at least 5 to begin with.
And when they're growing, the amount they're gonna eat is gonna grow exponentially for a while too.
By a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Definitely.
kids act out too, before they know what they're doing. They could be, burning down your inn or your brothel in this case, or
Yeah.
randomly attacking people just because they don't know their own strength.
And
Yeah.
it could also, I mean, the dragon you never know. It could come out like the Urkel of dragons, and it might not be like really that great of a dragon as far as dragons go.
Oh, it's like it's a true white elephant. It's the
Right.
the albino elephant that can't do any work because it's so weak, but it's still an elephant and
And you still
therefore
have- yeah.
eats a lot.
It burns down the inn and goes, "Did I do that?"
That's you.
Did I do that?
Sorry.
That's the turtle, right?
Yes,
That
yes.
is-
Yeah.
Piggyback.
Did I do that?
That's it. Much better. The other thing I was thinking
Glasses
was,
on for that.
you know, even before or maybe even after the dragon is born, dragons are rare, and perhaps there's a very angry, hurt mother or father or cousin out there who wants their sibling back or their child back. I mean, who knows? And also, who knows how long it takes a dragon egg to hatch, or how long? I mean, it could be centuries old as well.
Oh, sure.
So I mean, they could be hitting this thing with lightning for weeks before anything happens. You know,
Shock the shit out of this thing.
right? And maybe they need to roll another natural 20. Like you hit it with lightning once a week, and every week you have to roll a 20, or maybe once a month or something. I don't know.
Or maybe
But that way you can delay the inevitable. But I also think that once the dragon is born, other dragons are going to be attracted to it. Especially if there's a mother out there somewhere looking for her lost egg.
Oh, sure. Oh, that's like whatever that latest iteration of the Jurassic Park movies when they gets the. No, it wasn't that. No, it was one of the sequels. The guy steals Velociraptor eggs. It's like, why do they keep chasing us? They keep chasing us everywhere. Oh.
Yeah. Well, and
That actually-
that's also something that you can hold on to as your characters level up at some point. Then the mother dragon can show up when they actually have the ability to deal with it. So you can sort of play the long game with it.
Oh yeah.
But let's say that they roll another 20 and their dragon is born, and now they have a baby dragon around. Do we have any ideas of what to do with a party with a baby dragon, other than just make their life kind of miserable? I mean, at some point you gotta.
You figure it's a predatory reptile,
Yeah.
which means it might bond with something, maybe, although it's sapient, but
Thank you.
it might itself
It's sentient, actually.
both.
It's both.
It might look at everything else as food. I mean, think
Especially early
absolutely.
on.
think
Yeah.
of
Well, definitely anything made of meat.
yeah, well, yeah,
Something tells me it's
All at
something-
once.
which is probably going to be whoever it bonds with. All of their closest friends probably are made of meat.
Well, I mean, you might have a Warforged in there.
Okay, that's
somewhere,
true.
but-
That's true.
But
That's a chew
that'd
toy.
be funny. That'd be funny if the dragon bonded to the Warforged, because it's the only one that he doesn't see as food. Oh,
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
But you know, you could also just make it that the dragons don't actually bond. I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
yeah, absolutely.
that is just a trope that doesn't actually have to exist.
No,
In fact,
absolutely.
probably doesn't in D&D. The dragon is its own.
And there's
classically, the chromatic dragons are incredibly antisocial, even to their own blood kin. They don't like being around other dragons. They make terrible parents. It's the metallic dragons tend to be much more social, but the chromatic dragons tend to be like, no, I am a lone thing, and I am the top of the food chain, so it doesn't matter.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
when baby crocodiles hatch, they don't just like hang around their mother. They're done. They're fully formed, and they go off and start killing shit, right? Because
I
they don't.
don't
There's
remember.
no nursing
I don't know.
going on. There's no. No,
Well,
think so.
I know
think
that
they just-
crocodiles will protect their eggs, but after they hatch, I don't know, because I've seen video of Nile monitors going in and intimidating crocodiles into abandoning their nests so they can eat their eggs.
That's impressive.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, it
yeah.
is.
Nile monitor is probably the meanest animal on the planet.
Considering how a crocodile, when they're born, they're pretty much teeth and swimming and everything. They're ready to go. So I can only assume that.
But they still have those abnormally large eyes that all baby animals have.
But they don't. There's no nursing going on because they're a
No,
reptile. So
no.
I mean, let's sort of extrapolate that with a dragon. I mean, it would come out a fully formed dragon, able to fly, able to eat,
But it's little.
not fully. It's not. It can't really think or know words or anything yet. Right now, it's just an angry or hungry machine because it needs to pack on muscles and stuff. I mean, you can certainly work out the whole. It takes a little while to fly until the wings are fully formed, and then it needs to learn how to fly. So it needs something how to teach how to fly. But for the most part, it's going to be eating for the first, I would say, 6 months of its life, like constantly,
Oh yeah, pretty
packing on
much.
weight.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And a little research on like how much a baby alligator would eat when it's first born would probably give you a range of what you need to do. But I mean, I also don't want to just set out a whole bunch of things to punish your players. the rewards of having a dragon in the party might be really, really cool. I mean, maybe at some point it just becomes sort of a glorified NPC where it flies out and learns stuff on its own, and comes back with information perhaps for the players. Excuse me. Now and again,
it could also be like it could be the dragon it comes out with a sense of individuality right away,
right?
Whether it can speak or not, and it might right away say, okay, these people, I'm familiar with them, so if I ever see them again, I won't immediately murder them. And that's maybe the best you can hope for. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's enough.
In thinking about this, the druid did roll, animal handling or something?
Yeah, it was animal handling. Some of that.
Well, and I would contend that a dragon is not, it's an animal, but it's not, it's a sentient creature.
Yeah, if you've got an IQ score that's like player character level, I don't think animal handling is supposed to work.
Yeah,
on a dragon.
Generally.
In D&D terms, dragons are not beasts. They are dragons.
Yeah.
Dragons are their own category. You would probably more have, and since they are sapient creatures, they think for themselves, you'd probably want to go with something more like persuasion than animal handling.
Right.
Charm animal, I don't even think works on them. And so maybe that's something that's like when the dragon is born, the druid's all, "Hey, you're my friend now." And
The other possibility
that does not work on me.
It never even has to get to the point where the thing hatches. Dragon eggs
Yeah.
are probably worth a lot of fucking money.
Yes.
And if the rest of the world finds out that they're carrying around a dragon egg, because I don't know how big the thing is. If it's little, it's something you can hide. But what the fuck if it's like this big and it's like sitting in the back of your cart? You got a blanket draped over it. Oh, what they got? Oh shit! You may spend more time trying to keep that thing safe from getting stolen than it really ends up being worth. Too.
That's a great idea. Well. They'll do the whole Hagrid thing, which is
I won it in a poker game.
Right.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or from some bloke down to the pub. Seemed to be rather good, happy to get rid of it, actually.
There's a lot of great options that you can do with this egg without overpowering your player characters, especially if you take the time, let them level up before the dragon is hatched so they can actually maybe handle it. I think it could be a lot of fun, but I would put this into the category of the long play.
Yeah, definitely long play. The other thing is, do any of your players speak Draconic?
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to communicate this with this creature? Because I'm looking at the monster manual and wormlings, dragon wormlings, they do understand Draconic as a language. But they don't necessarily understand Common until they're older.
Until they're learning, right.
So,
there's also, I would think, a bunch of, it's still base lizard things, which is very smell-based and sound-based and display-based, which humans can't do. So there's going to be, early on, some communication issues.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of fun that you can have as a GM. I wouldn't see this as a detriment. I think that this could be a lot of fun, and you can do a little research. But also, don't. I'm aware of this because it's something that I would do. Don't constantly punish your players with this dragon. At some point it could come in handy. Especially if there's a TPK on the way and the dragon looks around and sees that its friends are in trouble, and all of a sudden its breath weapon comes in and it's never done it before and takes out or hurts the big bad, and the people are like, "Oh my god!" All of that stuff can be a lot of fun, but it does probably mean that you as a GM are going to end up with a player NPC that you're going to have to keep moving around. And we talked about this in one of our other shows, which is having the druid or somebody make decisions and make rolls for this dragon. But that's something that you're going to have to work out how you want to handle this extra player that isn't actually being controlled by anybody.
Right.
So that's one other thing to think about when this happens. But I don't know. It seems like fun to me. I'm actually having fun just thinking about it on my own. It's not even my game.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting complication as a GM to hand yourself. There's a lot of things you can do with it.
I will say this: I'm not going to be presenting that kind of opportunity to the players in my D&D game. because I don't want to paint myself into that particular
he didn't
corner.
either. The bastards rolled a 20. You know what he's supposed to do?
Yeah, but what he did was he put an egg in the room.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
At that point, it's Chekhov's egg.
Chekhov's gun. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, at this point, that you could shape the entire campaign around that egg.
Oh yeah,
you
absolutely.
Can. Totally. You absolutely could.
And in fact, what happens if they do decide, okay, well, this is too much work. We're just going to sell the egg, or we're going to sell the wormling when it hatches, or abandon it, or whatever. No, this campaign is still about that dragon.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because it's going to come back.
You even have the band of kobolds. The kobold tribe comes back for their egg. It was important to them. It was they worshipped it, or it was.
Yeah. You stole our god. Give it back.
Right. So there's all kinds of opportunities. With
or maybe
egg.
they sell the egg, and now the dragon feels abandonment issues and becomes a serial dragon, and is going around murdering people.
Oh,
or the female dragon shows up and levels the town that you sold the dragon egg to, and now they're pissed off at you because you have just now devastated the town. I could totally see the party leaving, and this dragon flies in and levels the town, and they're like,
they're walking away from explosions.
Right.
By the way, Stu,
mm-hmm.
I think it's actually a team of dragons. Wings up in 10.
I want to do a whole game called Dragoons and Dragons.
We could be looking at a spree. All right.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Thank you, John from Idaho. The next email, differing game groups from Ken R. Who would like to read this?
I could do it.
Right.
Go for it.
Differing gaming groups from Ken R. Hello, ladies and gents of the enlightened kingdom of douchebagia. This is my first time writing, and after an epically long time listening, in fact, I just caught up on every episode of my antediluvian podcast player could get, about 2 years worth. So, join me in a drink. All right?
I got coffee.
There you go. Sorry, Ken.
I got high alkaline water from Smart and Final.
There you go.
It's got electrolytes. It's what plants crave.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
First, let me say that your shows, this and the AP, have been a shining light in a sea of gaming waves and troughs, storms and sunny calms that I've experienced. I started playing D&D with the original box set. I mean original. No dice. You had to cut out the numbered cardboard and shake them in cups.
There was one before that one. That wasn't the original.
My buddy and I played the adventure in the back of the book, 4 rooms, 6 hours. That led to endless hours of hiding out in my room, hacking our way through our adolescences.
Right?
Non-stop up through university and beyond. Now, I've returned in my adult, post-dependent children phase, returning via Pathfinder to Savage Worlds, which I love. Minimum prep, minimal dice, minimal taxing of mathematical brain cells, and lots of variety. Since COVID, I've tried playing Pathfinder on Roll20. I'm too old and technologically inept to run anything myself, and discovered that I'm done with the medieval-based fantasy. 40 years of that stuff, no more! Drink if you sympathize.
Yeah, C.A. Dave said that.
Yeah, I still enjoy a good...
I sympathize, but I don't empathize.
Yeah. Enough rambling, though. My point of writing is, first, to thank you for the incredible advice you've shared that has made this hobby more fun, less work, and more fulfilling than just stalking the next room with the next new monster. I now realize that the RP in RPG actually means something. Yay! Second, I want to share a discovery I've made. I'd like to enlighten you on the discovery I've made.
Let me challenge you with my newest artwork.
Vice. Second, I want to share a discovery I made. I'd love to hear your views on. Pre-COVID, I was running 2 games of Savage Worlds. One is an alternate Earth pulp game with a group of experienced players that range from their late 20s to mid-40s, hereafter referred to as the nerds. The other is a fantasy pirate game. Doesn't count as medieval-based fantasy. Totally different feel.
Sure.
With my son and his 2 friends, all in mid-20s, hereafter referred to as the kids.
The kids.
The nerds have spent years to decades grinding up an unnamed fantasy RPGs, and the kids have almost no experience in gaming. A few sessions of D&D for 2 of them, absolutely nothing for the last. My God, it is so refreshing to be running games for kids. No preconceived ideas, no metagaming, no rules lawyering, and when they're traveling through a mountain pass and they hear a rock clatter down, they think it's a fox or something, rather than forming a defensive ring and blasting fireballs out of the mountain. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy gaming with the other group, but it feels so much more like I'm on the defensive. What have your experiences been running newbies? All right, I'm done. Thanks for sharing your wisdom and bear stories. Keep on the bear stories, yep, and keep on putting it out there. P.S. I'm Canadian and proud to have taught my daughter to belch.
Excellent.
P.P.S. Here's the shortest gaming horror story. 4th gaming session ever for my son's buddy. Having to roleplay romantic tension with his best friend's dad. Good luck sleeping tonight. Ken R.
All right.
It's a great letter. Thank you, Ken. Thank you for all your compliments.
Any experience with running with new players?
Yeah. The game I'm currently running, actually, my little sister is one of the players. I say little; she's 30 next week. And
you're old.
And one of her friends joined the game to replace a player who had to drop out. And the two of them combined, the time that they've spent in this game is more than the time that they've spent in all other games combined.
Oh wow. Okay.
So now I've been running weekly since March. So that's actually a decent amount of time at this point.
It's a really good amount of time.
Yeah, we're at almost 30 sessions. So yeah. But yeah, there's definitely a different attitude between them and two of my other players who are seasoned veterans, even compared to me. Well, especially compared to me. They're guys who've been playing since at least the 80s, if not earlier. And they definitely have a different perspective on, because they don't, the younger players don't know what the tropes are, right?
No, that's a really good way to put it.
They if I describe a creature to them, they don't automatically jump to, oh, that's a night hag, I was actually able to surprise, since the reveal has already happened, even if they watch this show, it doesn't matter. I was actually able to surprise everyone by making them all think that this particular human that they were going after was in fact human, and not the Rakshasa it actually was. But I gave little hints, but it just,
As well they should. I mean, unless they're a learned, went to a collegium and studied a equivalent of a monster manual book in the library about various monsters that they have to kill, why would they know what a Rakshasa was, let alone its weaknesses and strengths? I mean, that's the way the game should be played. Like, the first few times when... in fact, I remember as a young player, we actually didn't allow people to read the monster manual, because when we described what a kobold was, we didn't want them to go, oh, it's a kobold, and then immediately start planning to kill a kobold. Yeah. Because they know its weaknesses.
Yeah, I was conversing with one of my bandmates who has also been running D&D over remote during COVID, and he has one player who reads the adventure, because he's running a published adventure. He reads the adventure manual the next section of it the week before the game.
The player does?
The player does.
That's cheating. That's really metagaming. That's like somebody that like hacks a video game so they get God mode or whatever, just because they already know no.
I mean, I don't particularly like running the published adventures, just because that's a lot of reading for me to do, and I would much rather just come up, much like Stu, I'd much rather just come up with my own.
Yep.
I'm using a published setting. I'm using Eberron because I think it's a cool setting, but I'm not using their, any of the suggested adventures within it.
I steal from them all the time.
Oh,
I pull NPCs out of them. I use the maps.
Yeah, absolutely. The maps are great. I love using the maps.
published adventures all the time, and I always, like, when I was running, would have one in my pocket for the time that they went left and decided to go into the sewers instead of the wizard tower I had planned. And now I'm like, all right, well, here's a map. That's the sewers. We're going. This published adventure has now become the labyrinth under the city.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's just me, because I got caught with my pants down more than once, and now I prepare with something else there ready to go.
Yeah. But no, it is refreshing to see that, you know, that they're not. I have more than once run games with veterans who have been like, okay, this is what this encounter is going to be about, like almost using those exact words
at the table
and
with every other player.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we just need to go in, kill the shit, and get out. And it was like, well, okay, thank you for diminishing everybody else's input on this.
Okay, so it's a bunch of skeletons. So everybody, make sure you get your blunt weapons out, because they don't like. And make sure you get the fire. All right. So this is what this is going to happen now. Anything else in there is not going to burn. So it's like, shut the fuck up, bro.
So I do appreciate the fact that they've made enough changes in 5th edition that anyone who is familiar with like 3rd edition doesn't actually know shit.
Right.
Because, for instance, undead, not necessarily vulnerable to radiant energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's like, oh, we're dealing with undead. Hit them with radiant. Okay. I mean, that works. It's not any better than just hitting them with a stick.
Right.
Or
Depends
fire.
on the undead, though, right?
It does, but with the way that they've done it is that instead of undead universally taking, or, you know, being vulnerable to radiant damage, certain radiant attacks do extra damage to undead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's not double, right? It's like roll 2d8 damage, or if the target is undead, roll 1 extra d8. That kind of thing.
Right.
So it, you know, but it messes with their minds because they're thinking from back 3rd 3.5 where, oh, it's undead, hit it with radiant.
Right.
And
this is all reminding me of back in the day when I used to go through the monster manual, find the obscure monsters that nobody knew, and then they used to make these aftermarket monster manuals and such that I would buy just so that I had something they didn't know what it was, so that they would have that element of surprise and that element of like, oh my god, what do we do? And this ties in, and what it does is it makes the experienced veteran who knows everything a newbie player again. And it's exciting for everybody. And it brings us back to the email, which is, it's really interesting to see new players and how they tackle something that they've never seen before or done before. And it doesn't even have to be an encounter, or it doesn't have to be a monster. It can be just a counter and a kind of a place. You know, whether it's how they interact with a blacksmith or how they walk into a tavern. But a lot of veterans, we just fall back on these tropes, and we know all the monsters. And it's really hard sometimes to not metagame that stuff even a little bit. And with new players, everything's new. It's the first time they've ever seen it or done it. So there's this excitement and this wonder, and it's fun for the GM and even for veteran players to see that happening on the table. I was just, as a quick note, I know I'm probably steamrolling over your next point, but when Stu, when we were playing Vampire, we had Jesse in our group, and Jesse's GM'd a little or played a little, but not a lot, I don't think. And as a player, watching her solutions and her ideas was so refreshing. Yeah, because it wasn't full of tropes. It was her own take on things, and it sort of reminded everybody, like, oh yeah, we have a lot of different choices here. We don't just have to fall in on this. Okay.
Yeah, it actually reminded me of my first Vampire game, you know, which was my first role-playing game. So it was like, I don't know any of this stuff. I don't know any of the setting. I don't know any of this. I will admit, I have gotten worse about being the guy who over-examines the tropes as a player. But
it's hard not to.
It is hard, and I have a tendency when I'm playing to think in terms of a GM rather than in terms of a player. And that's my own failing, and I work against it. One of the things that is fun is, you know, if you're trying to get these get them off of the published materials, is people have made some really compelling monsters for D&D, and they post them online, various places, Reddit or Tumblr or whatever. And one of the first things I threw in this game was one of those, like, people invented this thing, and it was based off of a meme. It was based off of of an internet meme. I threw 30 to 50 feral hogs at them.
Oh, there you go.
Hogs are nothing to mess around with.
No, they're really not.
They would kill and still kill people to this day.
Well, I mean, it was there was the thing about back in a couple of years ago where somebody was saying that I need my gun to keep 30 to 50 feral hogs from running over my ranch in Oklahoma or whatever, and somebody created this, and Stu, I shared it for you, but they did not mess around. This was the barbarian, who was being played by my sister, runs in to go at this swarm of hogs, and they critted on a trample.
Oof.
So they were 4th level characters.
Oh boy.
And I rolled 20 d8 damage.
I believe it.
On a crit. On a crit.
I totally believe it. I also think that. I mean, back in medieval times, people went boar hunting and people died. But even nowadays,
Robert Baratheon.
That's right.
Even nowadays, people will run into some feral hog, and they have these what they call it, super pig or pig bombs or whatever. These giant feral hogs running around that not only tear up the countryside, but have in fact, attacked or chased people. So they're nothing to mess around with. There's a reason orcs are part hog, right? Part pig, isn't there? Aren't they?
No.
They're often shown as such. But as we know, all orcs are French.
Right.
Oui.
Anyway, Stu, do you have any when some of your because I know you did some stuff at GameCon with some kids.
Yeah, every so often I'll have someone who's brand new in a game, either that or like a parent and a child who are playing, and the kid's fairly new. And yeah, I mean, you guys have basically hit on kind of everything. Is that they don't have the old rundown way of looking at things that we all have after we've been playing for so long. I think that's one of the reasons people like to switch playing games, because when you playing a different game, all of your assumptions or different system, all your assumptions kind of go out the window. You know what I mean? As far as what can happen mechanically. Mm-hmm. So,
do you find yourself, Stu, as a GM, when there's a bunch of new people at the table, learning some stuff about GMing?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You suddenly realize that the descriptions or the tropes that you rely on your players already knowing as a sort of a shorthand, you now have to throw out the window and re-describe or reframe how it is you're explaining to them?
Absolutely. That and also you end up getting questions that seem like they're completely out of left field too. I remember people asking questions about, when I'm describing NPCs, what color are their eyes, or they start asking for details about their personal appearance. That's stuff that an old gaming group would never ask. You know what I mean?
Or care about, right?
Right.
Please stop talking to my experience points.
Exactly. Right.
I brought that up at dinner. I said, it turns out my daughters, and it's something I have never really GM'd them. I think I GM'd my oldest daughter once, and her and a friend had a little game. But they've independently gone out and found their own gamings. So in fact, my oldest daughter is starting another D&D game that's going to play weekly. She's in a Masks game, but that's independent of me. I didn't say you guys are going to learn the game. It's all something that they went to. And my youngest has been co-GMing with her friend.
That's really cool.
Over Zoom, and they do this whole thing. So, and I don't want to get in their way, so I don't want to, why don't you come and join me? I'm letting them do their own thing. But it's interesting, the conversation at the table was much like we were just describing, which is, like my youngest daughter has gamed, but is new to it and has her own take on it. So just listening in on their view of how games are run and what they do is really interesting. And I think as a GM, it's really important to listen to your new players, because I think it'll improve you as a GM. There's assumptions that you make, and there's tropes that you don't even know that that you've been relying on, that when a new player comes around, like you said, what color are their eyes? All of a sudden you're back on your heels going, and it will really, I think it'll improve your GMing all the way around, because all of a sudden now you're going to be describing, even to your veteran players, new things and different things. So I love, I think, having new players around, because I think it reminds you of how exciting a game is, because you see the wonder in their eyes, and it will knock the dust off of your habits when you, as a GM, to think back and to adapt to this person who's never seen anything like this before.
Right.
Definitely.
And there's also this last little bit of you're beholden to these new players to make sure they have a good time, because as the other email described, you don't want to be a douchebag, and you don't want the other players to be a douchebag and ruin this first new experience for these brand new players.
Exactly. All right. Thank you, Ken R., for the email. Being a murder hobo in modern settings from Jonas Whittaker.
Well, I guess that would be me.
Excellent.
All right. Dear Happy Jacks, I play and write for a Swedish horror RPG called Chock, Etterfrangraven. I probably horribly mispronounced that. Shock Back from the Grave. It's mainly set in contemporary times, but still tries to capture the feeling of old horror mirroring. Excuse me, sorry, rented lips. Of old horror movies of the Hammer film flavor. Mm-hmm. Okay. This has led to a problem for me, but maybe problem is the wrong word. It's rather a demanding challenge. My players get entangled with the law all the time. In classic horror, it wasn't really a problem if you went to a castle and brutally murdered the resident vampire. Maybe some of the inbred villagers complained, but you just picked up your stuff and traveled to another village to continue with your murder hobo lifestyle scot-free.
Just as I brought up my daughters the other day, my oldest daughter and myself dropped the word murder hobo at the dinner table, and my youngest had never heard it before. She laughed. This is an example of a new player. She goes, "Oh my god, they totally are!" It was like, "Oh my god, how have I never used this term before, and how does she not know it?" Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's an example of a brand new player. The word murder hobo was new to her and fun.
Yeah. No, and knowing your daughters, I can imagine her reaction.
Oh, she squealed. She thought it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
But if you go to a vampire's mansion in a wealthy neighborhood today and shot him to death, people call the cops. Cops that are part of a national jurisdictional network and have ways to cooperate with international police forces if you try to leave the country. Sure, the police are underpaid and understaffed, so maybe the PCs could just stay hidden for the rest of the game. It's not like they are the main characters in an RPG story that will put them in life and death situations all the time. If the police got worried after that shootout in the fancy mansion, wait until politicians and the media get involved after the PCs have yet another shootout with a bunch of cultists next to a kindergarten a couple days later.
Consequences. We always say, consequences. That's how you stop murder hoboing.
Exactly. I don't really mind, and that's why I don't call it a problem. My players' interactions with the law have birthed engaging and unique narratives. Players have bribed officials, bought new identities, and even decided to come clean and let themselves be caught. That's refreshing.
Wow.
That's a new one.
Really?
But the world of policing and prosecution is really complicated and based in real-world facts that you could need to research. What do the police actually do to you if you come willingly? Well, Sweden probably a little different than America. Does it count as an arrest? Are you free to go after your testimony? Is what you tell them even classified as testimony? Doesn't that come later? And a lot of the steps involved aren't suited to the RPG medium. What happens if the police catch my murder hobos red-handed? They question them one by one to see if their stories match up, of course. That sounds like a fun session, talking with my players one by one for an hour each while the others sit in another room.
Nope.
Right.
It can be done. I would suggest doing that in between sessions. So what's the best way to handle law enforcement in modern games? Say that the criminal justice system is really slow and hope the players finish the campaign before the court date arrives.
That's actually very plausible. That's really plausible.
That's brilliant. Looking forward on your insight in this topic from Jonas Larson, guilty until proved otherwise. Wow, okay.
My philosophy on law enforcement in modern games is the same as my philosophy on encumbrance. If you want to use it, use it. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. Because you can having real
I
world...
misheard you. I so misheard you. You said encumbrance.
Yes, I said encumbrance. What did you think?
Okay, I heard incumbents.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
no,
I was like, Okay.
And the thing,
I mean,
the
you're
thing
not wrong, but
the thing is, it depends on the style of game you want to run. If you want to run a game where you've got real world consequences, that is totally different. I mean, I ran a con game where the players played regular people in a V20 game, or V20, or is it V5? I don't remember, but they played regular people, and there was someone missing. What do? They pick up the phone and they call the fucking cops.
yeah.
I'm like, I was not expecting that. Now, if I'd been smart, the cop would have been ghouled by one of the vampires. But I didn't. But I wasn't thinking fast enough. I'm like, okay, the police show up, and things went a little sideways after that. But if you're going to run that kind of game, you got to be ready for that kind of response. Because I mean, most of the time when we think of role-playing games, you think of the players being adventurers and being adventuresome. But if you've got a situation where law enforcement is real and capable and ubiquitous, doing certain things, setting buildings on fire, wrecking cars, killing people, destroying evidence, all this stuff has consequences, and that's a whole different kind of game than if you're running the game where the cops, don't believe that monsters exist and aren't really paying attention because they're dealing with other more mundane things at the time. Two totally different games. It's just like if you're playing D&D and you go in and you want to fight a bunch of monsters, or do you want to count how many gold pieces you got and how much that weighs and how much you need to carry and whether you need to buy another mule for your cart.
Right.
Well, and there is a difference between a CSI game and a vampire game.
Sure.
Where the police are like, vampires and werewolves. So you come with us and here's this nice rubber jacket for you to wear. As opposed to CSI where, it's a whole, I keep thinking of, like, if you want maybe a blueprint on how to deal with real world consequences, go watch any of the Bourne movies where when he starts hitting a guy in the airport, everybody notices and starts chasing him. And now all of a sudden he's basically on the run and has to keep hiding himself, and they've got a network of people that are around them, and that will change your game and keep the players basically in the shadows and on the run and constantly hiding. But that's a consequence, You just attack somebody in a public space with cameras, and they know who you are, and there's an APB out on you now everywhere.
Right.
So just even getting on a train and going across the border they're going to stop the train and check for you. So that will change the game, but they can still be murder hobos. In fact, in many ways, it's a little more
fun. Yeah,
right. Because now they're on the run anyway. So what's it matter?
Yeah.
But and there's even in some of the Jason Bourne movies, he even gets taken into back rooms and they're about ready to handcuff him and he has to get out, or he even does get captured. What was the one I saw recently? The Girl in the Spider's Web, where she's orchestrating a whole breakout for one of the guys, in order to get out. I mean but now your game has taken on a whole different thing, which is it's the rest of the world is against your players as well as your players trying to achieve their own goal. So there's two different things going on. They've got what they want to do, and the world is trying to stop them. No matter.
I mean, and this can be a way to shake up your game, because I mean, what is it? There's only 6 basic conflicts, and if it changes from man versus nature to man versus society to man versus himself over the course of the various chapters of the game, as it were, that can be an interesting way of keeping things fresh. I know that in various versions of the White Wolf games, involving the cops is very much an element that is actually pointed out in the setting material. In Vampire, the local cops might be ghouled to the local head honcho vampire in the city, but most likely the feds are not beholden to any one vampire, and so you might not have to worry about the local Leos, but if the FBI shows up, you might be screwed. Similarly in Hunter, where you're hunting. You're essentially a normal person who has one extraordinary ability, and plus you can recognize you can often recognize monsters for what they truly are. You can see that they're vampires. You can see that they're werewolves. You can see that they're wraiths or whatever. But you're still vigilante justice, and the cops are going to be, if you take a crowbar to somebody in Times Square, the NYPD is going to respond to that pretty quick. It doesn't matter whether you are claiming that, oh no, it's a werewolf, really?
Even bystanders might jump in and try to.
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
There's that scene I think in Captain Marvel where she's on the train and she takes out the Skrull. The rest of the people are trying to stop her from attacking this old woman. So
Yeah.
Things just don't go unnoticed.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, is there a gaming system where the Law and Order is maybe Call of Cthulhu, where Law and Order is sort of mapped out, and then there's maybe, if Tappy
Like
were here,
in
I'm sure
game
it's
mechanics, not that I know of. I mean,
Yeah,
it isn't in Call of Cthulhu. I mean, there's mention of law enforcement, certainly.
I'm trying to think of a game system that they could read to sort of give them a blueprint on how to handle Law and Order or the law when it turns up. And I'm sure if Tappy were here, he probably has. Oh yeah, there's cops and robbers. It's a great game system, but I'm saying that there might be something out there for how to handle it, because just like offhand, you're right. Most of the games just leave it up to you to how you're going to handle when the cops show up.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just looking in one of the White Wolf books that happened to be right here, see if there was something there. But
which is why a lot of people buy a lot of gaming systems. We don't necessarily buy game systems to run them.
You're not going to play everything. No, yeah, none of us are going to play every game we buy.
To mine mechanics, or sometimes just like to problem solve, or just give us ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, go watch a bunch of CSI like Stu, and maybe that'll give you some
That
ideas.
was Criminal Minds.
Oh, I'm sorry, Criminal Minds.
I haven't started to see it. CSI, there's like 8 million spin-offs, too.
Oh, yeah. No, I've watched all of them. So I might have a problem when it comes to police procedurals.
Well, what got me hooked on it was it's called Blacklist. I can't think of the name of the actor.
Yeah.
Who's the actor?
It's Spader, James Spader.
James Spader, yeah. And I thought when James Spader sort of reemerged on The Office as Robert California, I'm like,
all puffy and bald.
Oh
and
yeah,
weird.
it's like this is awesome. And it's basically the same character that he was playing in
There are
Blacklist.
no strings on me.
He was an odd choice for Ultron.
I thought
He's a great actor. He's a
he's
fantastic
not.
actor.
It's just weird.
He is,
I
I guess maybe that makes a great actor. But I'm trying to.
I want to be an alligator.
I'm trying to. If you're playing a game in the modern world, it's important to remember that yes, the cops have cameras and can communicate and will send your pictures around. And I think you're doing everybody a disservice, especially yourself, if you just pretend that doesn't really exist. I think it's really important to not play down the fact that, and it's not like the Old West, unless you're playing in the Old West. It's not like the Old West where the law was sort of different from town to town and communication was really slow. So if you went and held up the bank, it would take a long time for them to, for your hand-drawn picture to get sent to the next town to say, be on the lookout for these guys. So in modern times, it's important we all remember there's cell phones, computers, satellites, all of that stuff is there.
Yeah.
And you got to
Traffic cameras. I mean, yeah.
all of that, and it can really work against the players. Even in a superhero game, sometimes you got to sort of like you're gonna punch that guy, into the building. Okay.
I mean, there's the and you brought up just bystanders. Maybe it's not as big of a deal in Sweden, or I don't know where you're running your game, but the concept of just somebody walking around the street with a concealed carry license and a Glock strapped to his thigh is not uniquely American, but it is prevalent here. So if you go to town on somebody in the public, in a public space, it might not just be the cops that you have to worry about.
Oh, fuck. If you open fire on someone in a crowded space, you're getting SWAT and you're got probably half a dozen law enforcement agencies descending upon you in hours.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about, the
Just
I
walking
don't
around with
like-
an AK-47 over your shoulder is going to draw attention.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, but I'm talking about. I don't like the phrase, but the concept of a good guy with a gun, as opposed to the bad guy with a gun. Which are you if you're the PC? If you're walking around,
And how does anybody know?
and how is anybody
Oh, yeah.
supposed to know? Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to amend my earlier statement too. It's like, because I seem to remember we tried a superhero game once where the law and all that was important. So when you hit somebody through a building, suddenly the building managers came after you looking for recompense because they're like, you just destroyed my fucking building, right? And it's a different kind of game. It kind of takes some of the fun out of being a superhero, where you got to worry about the consequences of picking up the dude's car and throwing him at them. Because it's cool to pick up a dude's car and throw it at them, but then if they come after you and look for insurance money, now you're like,
And you're
"But
gonna
I'm
have
super guy."
you're gonna have lawyers from 3 or 4 different insurance
Right.
companies after you.
Right. And it really, so all of a sudden your superheroes become a villain, and it really changes the game a lot. That if you can't just pick up a car and throw it at the dude because it's super cool and you're a superhero, now all of a sudden you're like, there's a consequence to me fucking throwing that Nissan at the Hulk, and oops.
I mean, I seem to recall that there's an organization in the Marvel
Damage
comic,
Control.
Damage Control. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That
They actually
after
showed
the
up in
battle,
movies too.
after the Battle of New York, where
Yeah.
everything got totally effed up. Somebody had to come through and clean up
And there
after
was
all
also
that.
this alien tech lying around.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
Right.
Right. So I mean, that was the premise behind Spider-Man: Homecoming. So
Spoilers. And
if that's barely spoilers. It's the first 5 minutes of the movie.
You're not
And
if
Shield.
you've seen the thing, you're not qualified as to what's a spoiler.
I haven't seen it.
He hasn't seen it. I have. And whatever.
But even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to a certain extent too. So
Yeah, exactly right.
So I guess I'm going to amend my statement before I get jumped on by all the emails. So everybody stop typing now, which is, if you're going to choose to bring in your law enforcement, be aware that it's really going to change.
Oh yeah, it's like adding encumbrance rules. It's like what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
There you go.
how many gold pieces I get? Oh, I
Well-
can only afford to take 30 of them.
What you've ended up doing is...
Will someone
is
else
making-
carry the others?
What you end up doing is you make your heroes vigilantes and you make them villains to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because if you've punched the dude through the building, they don't care that you were trying to stop him from something else. They just want their money back for the bill. And then, now the police are worried about this guy who just randomly punches people through buildings, and he could be a threat. All of that stuff spins out of your actions. And now all of a sudden, but I'm super guy. I'm Mr. Incredible. I'm, why are you coming after me? I help you people. It's like, yeah, but did you see the trail of damage you have behind you there? I don't know if you're that incredible.
There's a good reference, actually, is the Incredibles movies.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And people just getting totally fed up with superheroes, and
Why wouldn't they?
why
It's like
would
you're out having a picnic, and all of a sudden, somebody drops a satellite right on top of you, and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call it. Where's the thing? Here it is. Oh, and I should say thank you to Jonas for the email. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
We're listeners of Happy Jack's RPG Pod.
Thank you for joining us for season 27, episode 16 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu,
I'm Stork.
And I'm Kurt.
and we'll see you next week at 11 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday.
Saturday.
HappyJacks.org/live. Sábado Gigante. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Timor, Beatrice, all exalted. Nerds or Dungeons and Dragons.
preceding program has been a presentation of the Angry Folk Media Empire.
You know, that's just like your opinion, man.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.